Hi everyone, I'm Eric,
And I'm Christopher.
and we're Grow For Me 5B. Today we're going to talk about our top 10 favorite plants in the 2023 season
We're going to reflect a little bit on our first Garden Conservancy open day tour.
and answer some of your questions from Instagram. So last winter, Christopher and I were asked to participate in the 2023 Garden Conservancy's Open Days. And this is the nationwide program where throughout the growing season, gardeners open up their gardens for people to come and tour them. And we were approached, and my initial reaction was, why not? I think we should do it. We work really hard in our garden. We really love it. We're really proud of it. I mean, it's a young garden, but let's do it. And Christopher was a little resistant.
I was very resistant. I was nervous about having people come into our new garden and not thinking we were up to snuff with some of these master gardeners who have big mature trees and developed landscapes.
But I said, Christopher, it's going to be what it's going to be. And the deal we're going to make is it's going to be our garden. We're not going to try to make our garden anything it's not. And we're not going to go, over the top and do anything more than we would normally do in a regular garden season. And so, of course, that sounds great in theory, but that as the season happened, that we were like, well, we got to put annuals here and we have to do this. And I'm really happy we did. Participating in the garden open days kept us really honest. It kept us on top of our weeding. It made sure that, we maintained the edges, that we pruned the plants, that I cut back the annuals in the containers to make sure that they were fresh in August. And I'm really happy we did it. And I mean, Christopher, you can share a little bit about like what actually happened that day and how it all went down.
As people came in, we just met them, got to talk with them, answer questions, gather their feedback. And in many cases, some of the master gardeners gave us fantastic feedback. So we were feeling pretty good about ourselves by the end of the day.
I do think the nicest part of it was just meeting other gardeners because in the social circle that we run in, our friends really appreciate our garden and they're really nice about it, but they're not gardeners. So it's really fun to actually kind of geek out with other gardeners
Yes.
and talk about plants and flowers and why you made a certain decision or why a design happened this way. And so I would say that if you are offered the opportunity to participate in a garden tour and open up your garden, just do it because it's really fun. And people come with the intention to support and to enjoy. And I would say overall, it was a huge success. I mean, in the middle of the day, for about 30 minutes, there was a complete and total downpour, which actually was kind of fun.
It was really fun. It cooled it down a little bit afterwards, but like Eric said, all in all, it was a fantastic day, and we really appreciate the opportunity to share our garden.
Speaking of sharing our garden, Christopher and I thought it would be a great idea to share our top 10 favorite plants of the 2023 growing season. I'll be sharing my top five, and he'll be sharing his top five.
First up are our favorite annuals of the season.
So, my favorite annual of the 2023 growing season is Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo. And I love this annual because it is kind of bulletproof for us. It's got this beautiful, bold color, a lovely trailing habit. It gets about 12 to 24 inches tall and wide. It's got great multi-color blooms on it that, as they age, they change to a lighter shade. It goes with anything. We have it all throughout the garden. I really like it.
So my annual of the year is going to be a new for 2024 Campfire Marshmallow Bidens. This isn't the flashiest annual, but in our Aquapots Light, where we planted up some of the newer varieties for next year, it has been an incredible performer. I wouldn't say it mixes well with others. It's much more of a dense mound. Gets about 20 inches tall and wide, but it has these really great little white flowers with a yellow center, so the pollinators love it. And it would look fantastic in the ground as a hedge, as a mass planting. Just it's just something light and airy and easy, and it doesn't have to be as punchy as some of the other plants. Why don't we do our hydrangea next?
Oh, my favorite hydrangea, as I'm sure everybody knows who follows me on Instagram, or follows us on Instagram, is Firelight Tidbit Hydrangea. And the Firelight Tidbit Hydrangea is a panicle hydrangea. It's a pretty recently released hydrangea, I'd say within the last few years. And it grows about 3 by 3, maybe 2 feet tall, about 3 feet wide. It Every inch of it gets covered in blooms, and then they turn a beautiful, super rich pink towards the end of the season.
I am sticking with my tried and true favorite. I'm going with the Pinky Winky hydrangea. Um, it does say on the tag 8 by 8, but I have seen 12 by 12. I've seen even bigger. They are absolutely gorgeous. They get the biggest panicles. They're 16 inches long sometimes, and they're open and almost lacy, but still in the cone panicle shape. They have such a beautiful white color, and as the pink starts at the base, they just glow, and they're so, so, so beautiful. So that would definitely be my favorite. All right, shall we move into our perennial?
Oh, yes. My favorite perennial of 2023 is Walker's Low Catmint. And I love Walker's Low Catmint because it gets nice and tall. It's got beautiful blooms that last for a good chunk of spring. They start blooming in spring, go till midsummer. You can cut it back to the ground and it'll reflush a whole new set. If you don't cut it back to the ground, those older blooms will kind of flop a little bit and new growth will appear from the middle. I love Walker's Low for pollinators. I love it on the border. It's this floofy, beautiful, just ethereal aesthetic to me, and it looks great with roses.
And it smells good.
And it smells nice too.
All right, so my perennial of the year, it doesn't smell as good. It's the Serendipity Allium.
No, that doesn't smell
It
as
does
good.
not smell as good, especially after that rainstorm during the garden tour. It was very oniony. The cool thing about Serendipity Allium, it's an herbaceous allium as opposed to the bulb style alliums that are more traditional, the big globe masters and purple sensations we see in spring. This is more of a later summer blooming plant that every year we cut right back to the ground. It comes up with this kind of grassy foliage and then it sends up this dense cluster of beautiful purple blooms that almost look like they're in constant motion in summer because they're covered in so many bees. The bees are all over this thing. And the other day, I think I counted 4 different species of bees. At least they all look different. And it was really cool. It's a beautiful plant that is deer proof and rabbit proof. They do not like the onion smell as much as I am not a fan of the onion smell. But it's so beautiful in a border. It's beautiful mixed in any combination of plants. I think it's definitely my favorite for a couple years now.
Yeah, I think it's a great perennial. I think the only downside is you have to wait until end of July, August for it in our area.
But that means you have to plant lots of the various bulb forms that come out earlier in the summer.
That's true.
All right. All right. Next up, we have our rose of the year.
The rose of the year for me goes to David Austin Rose's Lady of Shalat. This we just planted in our garden last year, last spring, and this rose is tall, it's healthy, it's full of blooms, it's intensely colored with a beautiful fragrance, and it looks gorgeous next to the Walker's Low Catmint. Lady of Shalat gets about it's supposed to be a small climber, short climber, maybe 5 to 6 feet tall, 4 feet wide. To me, it's a lovely rose.
And I wrote some notes down. I've got my laptop on my lap. That's what I've been looking at. The name, Lady of Shalott, was taken from one of Alfred Lord Tennyson's poems to commemorate the 200th anniversary of his birth.
I don't know
You
who
heard
that
it here.
is, and I've never read that poem, but I'm sure it's lovely as the rose.
It's incredible. Mine this year is the Ancient Mariner, more of a medium growing, beautiful, clear pink color.
I mean, that rose has been a stunner.
It's a knockout. It's so healthy and upright and just clean, which is such a funny word to say for a plant, but it is beautiful foliage, repeat bloomer. I think it might be the rose that's been featured the most on Instagram. It's in a really great spot for photographs as well.
And I think the funny thing about the Ancient Mariner is we never planned on getting it. It wasn't a rose that we, you know, would see and think, oh, we need that in our garden. Our rose dealer just happened to have three extra ones. And, every once in a while we check in with her and we say, what do you have? And she texted back and said, I have three Ancient Mariners. And I thought, sure.
Mhm.
And turned out to be one of the best roses in our garden.
I love that you said rose dealer. We do have a local David Austin educator, and she also sells some of the roses. So we do check in with her once in a while.
Yes.
Calling her the dealer is really fun.
Yes. We did actually, we got 3 of Our Lady of Shalats from her.
All right. So from seed this year, could be annual, could be perennial, depending on your zone. What's yours?
My favorite annual that was grown from seed this year was Verbena bonariensis. Um, I love it because, again, it has that purple flower that pollinators love. It's got that, again, ethereal quality, that light, floaty, airy quality. It gets about 4 feet tall. It's super robust. It reseeds itself quite a bit, but not so much in our garden that it's unmanageable.
And the secret I have to share with you all is we have a lot of verbena in our garden. I only grew 12 cells of verbena this year. The vast majority of the verbena in our garden I found in a clump that had self-seeded. I pulled it apart and stuck it in the ground with almost no effort. I literally stuck my finger in the ground, put the seedling in, and they took off. So it's a good one.
Yeah.
My favorite plant that I started from seed this year is a seed that I got from Baker Creek Seeds. It's the Majorette Double Champagne Hollyhock. It's very unique in that it only gets about 4 feet tall. It doesn't get that huge 8 foot crazy look to it. And the blooms are like pom poms. They're really soft, pale, creamy colored, and it's been blooming for a long, long time.
It really has been blooming almost the entire season.
About 3 weeks ago, we said, oh, we're going to have to cut these down. We've got a garden tour coming. And they're still going. I mean, we did have to pull some of the yucky bits off, but for the most part, they're still going. And then let's see, your tree of the year.
Oh, my tree of the year is the Shiloh River Splash Birch. The Shiloh River Splash Birch is either a very small tree or a very large shrub. It gets about 12 feet tall, 8 feet wide. The variegation on it is spectacular.
It's so cool.
It's got the creamy edges and the green in the center. And I love river birches. I mean, river birches in general, like the Royal Frost birch, are river birches, and I love beech trees as well. So, it might be a tricolor beech, but for this year, it's Shiloh River Splash Birch.
And I'm going to sound lazy, but my absolute favorite tree of the year is right over Eric's shoulder right now. It is the Bonfire Patio Peach.
Oh. Out of left field. Wasn't expecting that one.
Honestly, it's not something we had thought about originally. And then I saw it. Where were we?
We were in Massachusetts somewhere.
We were somewhere on one of our gardening adventures. And we found this tree super early in the season. It didn't have leaves on it. It didn't have flowers on it. It did have buds. And we were able to stuff it into the back of our car and bring it home. It has really awesome dark foliage. It does have peaches growing on it right now. We have read that they are gross. They are not good, but you can cook them, and we might have enough for one peach tart, just one.
Yeah.
But it only gets about 4x4, and we can overwinter it in this container and have a dark foliage peach tree right on the terrace.
Is that our top 10?
That's our top 10.
All right.
We did it.
We did.
What are your favorites? 10. Tell us what your favorites are in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. If you have any cool seeds I should be starting next year, let us know as well.
All right, how are we going to do these questions from Instagram?
All right, I've got them up on the laptop.
I've looked at them, but I haven't seen them in a while.
All right, I will ask the first question.
Okay.
What made you fall in love with gardening?
Well, what made me fall in love with gardening was, well, I can tell you how we got started gardening, and then how I fell in love with it. We got started gardening because we moved into this home in 2018, and it was a blank slate, just sand. The builders had put in a pretty mediocre to poor builder grade landscape package out front, and so when I saw that, I just thought that doesn't look very good. What can we do to make it better?
Oh,
And then we started our journey on learning about gardening. And we turned on YouTube and we watched Laura from Garden Answer, and we watched Aaron the Impatient Gardener, and we watched Jim Putnam, and we watched a whole bunch of people and Googled and read magazines. I went to the local nursery and talked to people, and as you get into it, you just kind of love it because there's a great design aspect to it that I never realized. And I've always loved designing things. There's this beautiful, like, wait and see component of it where, you just have this vision and this hope of what it's going to look like. And so you plant these things in anticipation. There's a lot of that, like, oh, it's going to be this, which I think is super exciting. Um, and it's such a tangible thing. You can get out there, get fresh air. You can get some sort of release and therapy digging in the dirt and designing. And that's why I love gardening.
okay. All right.
Well, the next question is for you, Christopher. How big is your property? That's an easy one.
That's an easy one. We have 0.51 of an acre.
All right. Um, I'll ask you the next one since that one was so easy. Do you do all your own maintenance?
We do. We do all of our own maintenance. We have our lawn fertilized by a company. They come 4 times a year, and that's for grub treatments and fertilizers and all that kind of stuff. But everything else is on us.
Everything else we've done ourselves. To be fair, in the spring, we did have two of our friends come help us spread 20 yards of compost, which was
Yes.
extremely generous of them, and we are still so appreciative because that was a big job. But beyond that, we do it all ourselves.
How many hours a week do you spend gardening?
It's not as many as you would think. I think during the work week, really not much at all. I think a little bit in the morning. We always do a morning walk and kind of pick a weed or two and do some watering in the morning. And then after work, kind of the same thing. It's really about enjoying it. And then on the weekend, it's time for mowing, um, transplanting, planting. I mean, it is our thing, but I wouldn't say we don't do anything else. I wouldn't say it takes up
Yeah.
so much of our time that we don't function. What is the next rose you're going to order, Christopher?
All right. So we have to be patient. The newest David Austin Danahue, a must. It looks like an absolute must. I would have said Tottering by Gently, but we did happen to find 3 of them on one of our recent journeys. There is the Proven Winners Reminiscent Coral, is incredibly beautiful. They also have Rise Up Emberaze. There is one called Polka that's beautiful. There is Matchless Mother, which is beautiful.
This is getting very long.
I could get really carried away with the roses. All right. Do you have drip irrigation or water by hand?
We have both of those options in our garden. And depending on the year and whether or not the drip was damaged, we could have neither. No, but we have drip irrigation in all of our established garden beds. We don't have it installed yet in the new garden bed located directly behind us, and we don't have it for our terrace containers. So on the east and west side, we can turn the drip on easy. For now, we're hand watering the new garden and the containers.
It's coming. I have the tubing. I have the equipment. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and I think what's funny is last year, our weather is so hit or miss. Last year was a super dry year when we really needed the irrigation. This year it's just been pouring, and we've turned the irrigation on twice. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's a rush to install it, and sometimes not. All right. how many roses do you have and which one? And I'm so glad you got this question because you're so much better at remembering these things.
All right, we have 51 roses currently.
Oh, wow.
Yes, there's 51. Oh gosh, we just made the whole list. I should be able to recite this in 2 seconds. But we have a very large collection at this
Wait,
point.
I can pull it up on my phone.
Okay, we have Eustacia Vi, Vanessa Bell, Teasing Georgia, Mill on the Floss, Gertrude Jekyll, Mary Rose, James L. Austin, Crown Princess Margareta, Blickfield Angel, Lady of Shalat, Tottering by Gently, Boscobel, Roald Dahl, Oh So Easy Double Pink, Reminiscent Pink, those two are proven winners, The Ancient Mariner, Flavorette Honey Apricot, proven winners, Earth Angel by Cordis, Emily Bronte, Woolerton Old Hall, Claire Austin, and Gabriel Oak, all of those being David Austin, except the ones that I mentioned.
All right.
Are you growing dahlias?
We are growing dahlias this year, and we have grown them every year. We've never grown the same variety twice, though. Although the ones I can think of that I've really enjoyed that we've grown are Bishop of Dover. I think it's HS Date. Is that what it is?
It was date. And it was a surprise that we had HS date because we had only ordered Bishop of Dover.
And this year we have a yellow variety of dahlias that we're growing from proven winners collections, perhaps.
They are yellow. They're very nice. They're not a tall dahlia or a decorative dahlia. They're very, very tiny. But I would say, honestly, if I had to answer that question, I would say we forgot
Yeah.
to plant dahlias. We just forgot. I love them in the border popping up between the Quickfire and Pinky Winky hydrangeas because that area, as those fill in, is still a little bit more open. And they're great to fill in. I personally don't like dinner plates. I like the decorative ones, like Linda's Baby and some of the ones that get like 4 or 5-ish feet tall. American Dream, that was the one we had last year. That was so beautiful. All right, I think we have one more question. How did you meet?
How did you meet me, Christopher?
I met him at chorus rehearsal. There's a local semi-professional choir called Albany Pro Musica that I'd been singing with for off and on for about 15 years. And Eric also is a singer and a much better singer at that. And he was interested in joining, so we came to a few rehearsals. And although at that point we did not connect, we ended up connecting a little bit later on.
Felt like we connected. I mean, I remember sitting down and there was one guy between us, and I already had met the guy before. And I was like, "Who is that guy on the other side of you?" And he told me about you, and then then I just stalked you on social media and asked you out on a date, and that was that.
That was that. And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, you're welcome.
For all of you that have stuck out with us, listening to us answer some questions, thank you so much. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for following our young channel. And we hope to do some sit downs now and again. But there's a lot more gardening ahead.
If you have more questions for us, just put them in the comments below and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. Again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me 5B.
Thanks for growing with us.